I sit here in my usual coffee shop watching people in tailored suits rush past the window, and I cannot help but smile. 3 years ago, these same people would have looked at me with pity. My own family called me a failure, laughed at my lack of a real job, suggested I apply for entry-level positions. They had no idea that I was the one signing their paychecks. They thought I was unemployed. They did not know I owned the company they worked for. Let me take you back to where this all began. Before I tell you how I went from being the family joke to their actual boss, let me know where you are watching from. Drop a like if you have ever been underestimated, and subscribe, because this story has a twist you will not see coming. Trust me, what happened next will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about success. Now let me take you back to where it all started. My name is Bernie, and I am 28 years old. 3 years ago, I made a decision that would change everything. I graduated with an MBA from a decent university, and instead of climbing the corporate ladder like everyone expected, I took a different path. My grandfather passed away and left me a substantial inheritance. While my family assumed I would waste it or put it in savings, I did something else entirely. I bought a struggling tech company called TechVision Solutions. The company was small, just 12 employees, barely breaking even. It specialized in developing software for small businesses, but I saw potential where others saw risk. The thing is, I did not want the spotlight. I did not want my family breathing down my neck, questioning every decision, offering unsolicited advice. So I made a choice that seemed crazy to most people. I became a silent owner. I hired a CEO named Gary, a seasoned professional with 20 years of experience. He would run the day-to-day operations while I stayed in the background, learning, watching, analyzing every aspect of the business. I worked from home, attended online meetings, pored over financial reports late into the night. To the outside world, I looked like I was doing nothing. I drove my old 2008 Honda, wore the same jeans and t-shirts I had in college, lived in a modest apartment. My family had no clue. And honestly, I liked it that way. Over 3 years, TechVision grew. We went from 12 employees to 45. Our revenue quadrupled. We landed major contracts with mid-sized companies across 3 states. Every quarter, I would review the numbers with Gary, suggest strategies, approve budgets. But I did all of this remotely, anonymously. I was building something real, while everyone thought I was wasting my life. Here is where things get complicated. My older brother Derek worked at TechVision. So did his wife Pauline. And 6 months ago, my younger sister Stephanie joined the team too. None of them knew I owned the company. Derek was the sales manager, pulling in decent commissions and bragging about it at every family gathering. Pauline worked in marketing, coordinating campaigns, and acting like she was some kind of creative genius. Stephanie, fresh out of college, landed a junior developer position and thought she was hot stuff. At first, I was happy. I thought, how great is this? My family is thriving in a company I built. They are secure, well-paid, growing their careers. I felt proud, honestly. Every time Derek talked about closing a big deal, I knew I had created that opportunity. When Pauline showed off her latest marketing campaign, I knew my investment made it possible. I watched them succeed and felt like maybe, just maybe, keeping my secret was worth it. But then things started to shift. It was subtle at first. During family dinners, when relatives asked what I was doing for work, I would give vague answers. Freelance consulting. Some investment projects. Nothing concrete, because I could not reveal the truth without explaining everything. And that is when I started noticing the looks, the sideways glances, the uncomfortable silences. Derek would jump in with his stories about TechVision. He would talk about the big office, the company parties, the performance bonuses. Pauline would chime in about the creative freedom she had, the budget she managed, the recognition she received. Stephanie would gush about the cool workspace, the free snacks, the young and dynamic team culture. And then they would look at me. Poor Bernie. Still figuring things out. Still without a real job. My parents, retired and living in Florida, started calling more often. Mom would ask in that worried voice if I was doing okay financially. Dad would suggest I update my resume, maybe reach out to Derek for job leads. I tried to reassure them, but how could I, without revealing everything, so I just smiled and said I was fine, which only seemed to make them worry more. The real turning point came during Thanksgiving. We all gathered at my parents' house. Derek showed up in a new car, talking about his end-of-year bonus. Pauline wore designer clothes, courtesy of her marketing salary. Stephanie could not stop posting Instagram stories about her amazing job. And me, I showed up in my Honda wearing a sweater I had owned for 5 years. Derek started making jokes. Little digs at first. Still doing that online stuff, huh? Must be nice not having real deadlines. When are you going to get serious about your career? Pauline laughed along, adding her own comments about how I should really consider applying to their company. They are hiring, you know. Maybe start in customer service or something entry-level. Stephanie trying to be helpful in that condescending way young people sometimes are offered to put in a good word for me. I sat there cutting my turkey and said I was doing fine. Really, I am okay. But nobody believed me. My mom looked sad. My dad looked disappointed. My aunts and uncles exchanged those pitying glances that made my stomach turn. And Derek, sitting at the head of the table like he owned the place, just smiled. That smile said everything. It said I made it and you did not. It said I am the successful one now. It said you are the family disappointment. I drove home that night feeling something I had not felt in a long time. Not anger exactly. More like a deep, hollow ache. I had built something real. I had taken a risk. Made smart decisions. Grown a company from near bankruptcy to genuine success. And the people benefiting most from my work were the ones mocking me for not having a real job. The irony was almost funny. Almost. 2 months later, my mother's birthday rolled around. I knew it would be another family gathering, but I was not prepared for what Derek had planned. He decided to invite his entire team from TechVision. Suddenly, my mother's small birthday dinner turned into a networking event with 25 people crowded into my parents' backyard. I showed up in the only suit I owned, an old navy blue one I had bought for college interviews. It fit fine but looked cheap next to the sharp outfits everyone else wore. Derek had clearly told his colleagues this was a casual work event because they all showed up ready to impress. I felt like a fish out of water clutching a beer and trying to blend into the background. That is when Kyle approached me. He was TechVision's technical lead, a guy with thick glasses and an attitude that screamed, "I am smarter than you." He introduced himself, asked what I did for work. Before I could answer, Derek appeared out of nowhere, slapping Kyle on the back. "Oh, Bernie, he is well between opportunities right now." Derek said it with this laugh like it was the funniest thing in the world. Kyle's expression shifted immediately from friendly interest to awkward pity. The kind of look you give someone when you do not know what to say. "Man, tough market out there," Kyle offered, trying to be nice. "You tried LinkedIn, I heard they have good job search tools now." Pauline joined our little circle, drink in hand. We keep telling him to get a real job, but you know how it is. Some people are just not cut out for the corporate world. She said it so casually, so dismissively, like my entire existence was just a failed experiment. Stephanie bounced over young and clueless. "Our company is growing super fast. I could totally put in a word for you, Bernie. Maybe you could start in customer service. It is not glamorous, but it is a foot in the door." She meant well, I think. But it stung anyway. "I appreciate it," I said, keeping my voice level. "But I am doing okay. Really." Derek laughed again. "Okay, dude, you drive a 2008 Honda." "That is not okay. That is surviving, not living." The group laughed. Not mean-spirited exactly, but not kind either. It was the kind of laughter that comes when someone confirms what everyone was already thinking. Poor Bernie. He is trying his best, but he just cannot get it together. I looked around for my parents, hoping for some backup, but they were busy with other guests. And honestly, they looked embarrassed. Embarrassed of me. I excused myself, wandered to the edge of the yard and pulled out my phone. I texted Gary. "How are the Q3 numbers looking?" His response came fast. "Strong revenue, but some expense categories are running high. We should review together." I told him I would call him Monday. As I stood there, phone in hand, listening to my family and their co-workers laugh about my failure, something hardened inside me. It was time to pay closer attention. Monday morning, I called Gary for our quarterly review. We went through the usual metrics. Revenue was up 18%. Client retention was excellent. New contracts were flowing in steadily. But then Gary mentioned something that caught my attention. Our operating expenses had increased more than projected. Specifically, sales and marketing budgets were over by nearly 30%. I asked him to send me detailed expense reports for both departments. What I found over the next few days made my blood run cold. Derek had been submitting expense reports that did not add up. Client dinners at expensive steakhouses with no corresponding deals closed. Business trips to cities where we had no clients. Office supplies purchased through vendors that charged twice the market rate. I cross-referenced everything. 15 client dinners over 2 years with no actual clients present. 8 business trips that looked more like vacations. Thousands of dollars in office supplies that never showed up in our inventory. Then I looked at Pauline's contracts. She had hired a marketing agency run by her college roommate. The rates were 40% higher than industry standard. The work quality was mediocre at best. And she had never disclosed the personal relationship, which violated our conflict of interest policy. Over 18 months, that agency had billed us $63,000 for work that should have cost maybe $40,000. And Stephanie, I pulled her performance records. She was consistently late, averaging 2 days per week. Her code contributions were minimal. Her team lead had flagged multiple issues with her attitude and work quality. She spent more time on social media during work hours than actually coding. The senior developers had complained repeatedly, but nobody had escalated it properly because, well, she was the owner's sister. Except nobody knew who the owner really was. I sat in my apartment surrounded by printed reports and spreadsheets feeling sick. They were not just mocking me, they were stealing from me. They were abusing the opportunities I had created for them. And they felt justified doing it because they thought I was some loser who could not get his life together. The betrayal cut deeper than any insult ever could. I called Gary. I need a full audit. Derek, Pauline, and Stephanie. Everything. Every expense report, every contract, every performance review. I want it all documented by an independent firm. Bernie, are you sure? They are your family. Gary's voice was careful, concerned. That is exactly why this hurts. But business is business, Gary. If they were anyone else, what would you do? He was quiet for a moment. I would terminate them. Then, that is what we are going to do. Get me everything within 2 weeks. The audit took exactly 14 days. The independent firm was thorough, and their findings were damning. Derek had misappropriated approximately $47,000 over 2 years through fraudulent expense reports. Pauline's conflict of interest had cost the company $63,000 in overcharges. Stephanie's performance issues, while not financial theft, constituted gross misconduct and failure to meet basic job requirements. The report was clear. All 3 had violated company policy. All 3 should be terminated. I did not sleep the night before I decided to act. I kept thinking about Thanksgiving, about my mother's birthday party, about every condescending comment and pitying look. But I also thought about the company, about the 42 other employees who depended on TechVision for their livelihoods, about the clients who trusted us, about the integrity I had tried to build into this business from day one. This was not about revenge. This was about accountability. I called Gary at 6 in the morning. Today is the day. Set up meetings with HR. I am coming to the office. It is time everyone knows who really owns this company. I drove to the office in my old Honda, but this time I wore my best suit. It still was not expensive, but it was clean and pressed. I walked through the front doors of TechVision for the first time as the visible owner. The receptionist looked confused when Gary greeted me warmly in the lobby, shaking my hand like I was someone important. Employees stared as we walked through the office toward the conference room. Who is that guy? Why is the CEO treating him like a big deal? We started with Derek. Gary called him into the main conference room. Derek walked in with his usual swagger, saw me sitting at the head of the table, and stopped dead. What are you doing here? I work here, Derek. Actually, I own this place. I kept my voice calm, professional. He laughed nervously. What is this, some kind of joke, Bernie? Seriously, what is going on? Gary leaned forward. Mr. Bernie has been the owner of TechVision Solutions for 3 years, since before you were hired. Derek's face went through several expressions. Confusion. Disbelief. Then slowly, horribly, realization. His eyes darted to the folders on the table. No. No way. You are messing with me. I slid a folder across the table. These are your expense reports from the past 2 years. Care to explain why you charged the company for 15 client dinners with no corresponding sales records, or 8 business trips to cities where we have no clients or prospects? His face drained of color. I can explain. Those were legitimate. I was prospecting, building relationships at a ski resort in Colorado when we do not have a single lead in that state. I kept my tone even. Or a beach resort in Miami during what you claimed was a conference that does not exist. Derek tried to recover. Come on, Bernie. It is not that big a deal. Everyone fudges expenses a little. It is just how business works. Not in my business. You stole $47,000 from this company. From me. While calling me a failure at family dinners. The room went silent. Derek's mouth opened and closed. He looked at Gary, hoping for some kind of support, but Gary's expression was stone.